10 years have passed since an alien monster landed on the US-Mexico border, and it has now spread to areas known as infection zones across the Middle East. The United States has sent troops to fight these monsters, but indiscriminate bombing has destroyed thousands of local homes and prompted more rebel groups to attack American troops. Sergeant Frater is currently in the infected area as a sniper. He carefully observed the 3 Arabs from a high roof and tracked them down with his rifle. When a man approached a Muslim woman with a child, Frater hesitated, but quickly recovered and instantly killed the victim with a single blow. He then quickly fled, walking unnoticed through the crowded market to his car. As he drives out of town to return to the U.S. military base, he observes the current state of the country, where explosions and monster corpses are a daily occurrence. Meanwhile, in Detroit, a group of his friends were spending time with his loved ones before being deported to the Middle East. Orphan Michael picks up his closest sibling, Frankie, only to discover that he is preoccupied with his girlfriend. The 2 and Inkler then go to the hospital, where Sean's wife is delivering the baby. The 4 grew up together and their friendship became even stronger after they were assigned to the same unit. Sean's wife wants him to stay a little longer, but Sean needs a distraction before he goes to fight again. There, the 4 boys spent their last days as civilians together playing basketball, sharing cigarettes, and fighting dogs. This was a particularly illegal dog fight, pitting a dog against a baby monster, and at first the dog seemed to be winning, but the monster soon fought back and overpowered the dog, killing it. The dog's owner was furious and shot the monster back. The boys end their day at a bar, followed by a party full of drugs, girls, and debauchery. The next day, the group takes a helicopter to the Middle East and sees how devastated the country is. The monsters are huge and move in groups, making them a very frightening sight. On their way to the desert, the monsters notice a helicopter and try to capture it, but luckily the pilot thinks quickly and flies out of the way just before the area is bombed. The helicopter then arrives at the base. The soldiers meet Frater and Sergeant Forrest and explain the current situation. Your main goal is not to eliminate monsters, but to end the rebel activities in the city. After a short team exercise, the troops depart on patrol around the city. The boys go out into the city and find themselves surrounded by people who don't like Americans, which makes them very nervous. However, when children become curious and approach you to take pictures with you, they begin to relax and it becomes easier to interact with the locals. The team then arrives at what appears to be the rebel stronghold and monitors the location throughout the day, looking for clues about the containers that leave by truck every few hours. At night, they search the building, but find no weapons or explosives. They notice that 3 giant monsters are approaching, but before they can react, American troops attack the U.S. military, saying they are here to improve the situation but actually making it worse. You will encounter a farmer who hates it was the American military bombing that killed his family and livestock, and they keep trying to get him out of there, but this farm is his and the containers only contain his products. Therefore, the man decides to stay. He also refuses to reveal any information about the rebels. The monsters get closer and closer, but the farmer doesn't stop screaming at them, and in a moment of terror, Michael punches him and knocks him unconscious. When one of the monsters finally arrives at the farm, the squad immediately opens fire, hitting him with multiple shots from the shotgun until the monster dies. The plane then bombs and disposes of the other 2 planes. The team then returns to camp, and Flutter yells at them for not stopping the civilians in their way in time. He was lucky it was just a pawn, because he could have been a bomber. If your team isn't alert enough, your entire squad will be killed. Then the boys rest and Flutter and Forrest discuss the old days and say they have nothing to do with the weak new generation. Flutter is in a bad mood and continues to drink, so Forrest points out that Flutter has been here too long and needs to see his family again. This prompted Frater to call his wife and ask her to put his daughter on the phone. Because listening to his wife's story is the only thing that gives him the strength to continue living. After 12 weeks on patrol, the team receives a new mission. Teammates are trapped in an infected area in the desert and have lost all communication. Therefore, your squad must move carefully through areas full of mines and rebels to rescue them. Before leaving, we take a group photo as a souvenir in case everyone doesn't return. During their journey, they saw a group of small monsters running around, but were very surprised that they did not attack them. However, one of the cars accidentally crushes one of the monsters, and the boys become distracted and drive straight over a mine. The explosion severely damaged one of the cars and Sean quickly got out, wounded but alive, but unfortunately he went straight into another mine. To make matters worse, the rebels use the opportunity to surround them and open fire on them. The team takes cover behind a car and fires back, carefully making their way to their wounded comrades. Flutter investigates the car and is shocked to discover that Forrest is already dead, while the others drag Sean's body to examine his wounds and discover that he is missing a leg. After bandaging them as best they can, the team picks up Sean and runs to a nearby building while Flutter provides cover. The boys are so angry about what happened that they keep firing without looking closely, and Frater has to use the bullets carefully and yell at them to remind them to aim accurately. It didn't. While continuing to defend the building, the team attempts to call the base for help, but is told that headquarters cannot access their location. The Inklers try their best to stop the bleeding by giving Sean medicine, but unfortunately he has already lost too much blood and dies. At that moment, smaller monsters also arrive, and headquarters announces in their communications that they are sending drones to bomb the area. The team is devastated by the loss of their friend and tries to remove the body, but Flutter yells at them that it is a meaningless weight and that letting their emotions get in the way will kill them. The group reluctantly leaves Sean behind and flees just before the bomb hits. After several hours of running through the desert, the team finds an abandoned building and takes a break after making sure there are no people there. As Frater attempts to contact the base again, he suddenly hears 2 sniper shots. Inkler was killed instantly and Frankie sustained injuries to his abdomen. The team soon becomes surrounded by rebels. Flutter calls for his team to surrender to ensure their survival. The rebels immediately take the soldiers hostage, cover their faces and take them to a hideout, where they are tied to chairs in an old room. Once the bag is removed, Michael and Frater are devastated to learn that the rebels want them to watch Frankie slowly bleed to death. The two try to put Frankie to sleep with words of encouragement, but he is unable to do anything and Frankie apologizes for his mistake before his death. Michael becomes completely weak and a chair falls over, hitting his head and knocking him out. Before you know it, night comes and monsters come to this area. Most of the rebels quickly flee by car, but 2 of them break into the room to kill the soldiers. Frater took advantage of the situation and immediately defended himself by stomping on the men's heads until they died. Frater then cuts his wrist shackles on a broken window, frees Michael by taking the rebels' weapons, and tells him to steal a bicycle outside while he clears the building. However, rather than leave immediately, Michael releases Frankie in order to say a proper goodbye to him. Hungry for revenge, he looked around the building, found the rebel leader, and began angrily beating him with an iron rod until he was dead. After stealing some weapons, Michael runs outside and finds a giant monster destroying power lines. Noises from inside the building indicate that the Flutter are fighting the rebels, and Michael is exhausted and traumatized by all the deaths, so he covers his ears and denies when the monster attacks the building. A few hours later, Michael and Flutter cross the desert on bicycles stolen from the rebels. Eventually, Michael can no longer continue and stops to fall into the sand, but Flutter quickly tells Michael that he is in shock and must complete the mission or all deaths will be in vain. It reminds me of that. At some point the bike runs out of fuel and the two have to continue on foot. They arrive at a rocky area, find an abandoned vehicle, and decide to spend the night inside. They shared stories about home and family, and Flutter admitted that he had been in the military so long that his daughter would not recognize him when he returned home. The next day, the two continue their activities and encounter a large, dead monster whose tentacles are still twitching. Next door is a school bus that was destroyed by the bomb that killed the monster, and the two are shocked to find a pile of dead children inside. While Flutter tries to find water and food, Michael notices that one of the children is still alive and takes him to help. Flutter points out that the boy is in pain and that he won't survive this trip. There he covers his mouth and nose and tries to kill him mercilessly. However, the boy clung to Michael's hand, and Michael felt so sick that he forced Frater to stop. At that moment, a group of local residents on horseback approached the area. Frater quickly pulled out a gun, but Michael handed the boy to the woman and surrendered. In gratitude for helping one of the residents, the locals take the soldiers to the camp. After washing in the oasis and seeing their child properly cared for, Flutter and Michael join the locals and share food, songs, and even cigarettes. There are monsters running around in the distance, but no one cares. At night, Michael notices a woman coming out of the camp with a bunch of lanterns and decides to follow her. It was learned that lanterns were left around the bus to facilitate the children's funerals and the children were removed from the bus and given a proper burial. As her monster approaches, the woman sits and watches her curious Michael following her lead and wondering the outcome. The monster was there to mourn her fallen brother, scattering glowing spores across the floor and creating beautiful beams of light. Light that brightens the surroundings. Eventually, Michael fell asleep on the floor next to the woman, and in the morning the two left without saying a word. Meanwhile, Flutter begins to lose his sanity as he watches over the child they saved and learns that the child is also dying and their efforts were in vain. When Michael returns to camp, he is berated by Frater for befriending a girl when he should be focused on his mission. He then drags the boy and looks at the boy's body, reminding him that he is not allowed to play hero or feel anything in the war. The soldiers then leave the camp to continue their mission. On the way back, they found a child with a can in his hand, and when the child opened it, a small monster appeared. Michael takes the can and releases the monster, letting him bury it in the sand since it was still a baby. Hours later, the two arrive at the scene of their mission and discover a bombed-out city. They walk down the street and find no one there, but when Michael goes behind a building, he finds several children playing with guns. Flutter demands to know where these weapons can be found, and the kids take him to a building, where it turns out that the team they were supposed to save is already dead. Realizing that Flutter has lost his team for nothing, he eventually loses his team and begins terrorizing the locals, trying to find out who killed the soldiers. He talks like crazy and doesn't care that they are civilians or that the children are watching. When Michael shot someone, he had to point the gun at his boss, but Flutter was restless. He questions why he is here and turns to the civilians, leaving Michael with no choice but to shoot. Unable to bear the magnitude of the tragedy, Fertel fell to her knees and held her head. He then decides to go outside as blood slowly oozes from the gunshot wound. This allows him to die while watching a group of monsters fighting an incoming bomb in the distance. One of the helicopters rescues Michael, but all he can do is scream at the outcome of the mission. End. Conclusion. In the bleak aftermath of their harrowing mission, Michael's anguished screams pierce the desolation, a haunting testament to the unrelenting brutality of war. With comrades lost, innocence shattered, and sanity slipping away, the once indomitable spirit of Sergeant Frater now joins the growing chorus of broken souls in a world forever scarred by monsters, both human and alien. Thanks again for Movies Recapped. If you enjoyed this movie recap, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe button below for more movie recaps in the future. Please also comment on your thoughts and so I know you subscribed and I will reply back to you.